Dun, 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 dun.
And we're back for another Lakers weekend, everyone. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. On this week's episode, I dropped earlier today. It's a really darn good one because it's number 400 for the PCC Multiverse, where we talk and I review on the air the Mr. McMahon series on Netflix, which if you are a member, you got to know what my thoughts were on it early, a couple days early, actually, in fact. And we also talk the ongoing strife and controversy in regards to Ubisoft and what they're doing, including delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows. So some great talk there on pop culture, inside sports, fantasy football. Chris Ardieri and I covered NFL Week 3, also our picks for NFL Week 4. Plus, we talked to you about if you're hitting the panic button if you got off to a slow start. So go ahead and check out Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Joe Soro is here. Please go ahead and give him a shout out. Simblades, SimbladesForTheY.com. And also as well, continue the NBA talk after the show today at Lakers Ball with him as Ox1947 at LakersBall.com. Want to give a big shout out to our members, which you can become a part of for just $2.99 a month. Intel Wild, Samir, JSJ, Kurt, Darren, Sports Baby, Richard, Bloodhound, and Xbox. Great to have you as members on the LFB membership program, which you get some inside stuff, get notes ahead of time when we're going on the air before anyone else. Plus, you go ahead and get emojis, badges, and big shout outs from us for $2.99 a month. Plus, again, you got to see my Mr. McMahon review before anyone else. So go ahead and check it out today, $2.99 a month. Also, as well, of course, Lakers in 5, Empire Jeff TV, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, John McCallion channel, John Costas channel, which we're on right now, Clutch Talk and Lakers Corner. Biggest shout out to you, John. Also, as well, hopefully, Stone Hansen is doing okay as well. We always love to hear from him. Be great if we did. Reached out to him. Hopefully we'll hear back soon. And of course, the Lakerholics at Lakerholics.com. And I've got a special treat for Darren. He might get a little bit teary-eyed when he hears this, but Laker Tom is returning back to the channel tomorrow at high noon as he, Michael Heinrich, I haven't got a confirmation on Jamie, and if he can't do it, I'll host it. The Lakerholics crew at noon tomorrow, right here at the Lakers Fast Break. I'll tell you what, though, we were going to go on the air anyways, but breaking news has come across the wire, and in the post-Woj ESPN, well, you could even say Zach Lowe era as well, as far as ESPN is concerned, they got beat as far as the breaking news on this, as Shams Charania got the lead on this one, reporting that the New York Knicks and Minnesota Timberwolves have constructed a trade with Karl Anthony Towns going to New York, headed to the Knicks in exchange for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo. That was a surprise to me because that breaks up a little bit of that Villanova party. And a first-round pick, top 13 protected from Detroit in next year's draft. There's also some filler as far as a player and also some draft compensation that's going to go to Charlotte, I think, for Charlotte taking a player as far as so it can alleviate the cap concerns as well. But for the most part, it's a trade that I think that came out of nowhere on the eve of training camp for a lot of these teams. And here today to discuss that as far as how it affects both the Eastern and Western Conference picture with Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo going to Minnesota. Obviously, the money is factored into this with the ownership, debacle that's going on right now. And the New York Knicks, who are trying to go all in on a championship run. And it is, of course, Joe Soro. Joe, great to have you here. Glad you could come on short notice. Your thoughts, my friend. Shams reported it. First to do it. I guess according to Ramona Shelburne, get this, she posted the funniest tweet I've seen in a little while, that Karl Anthony Towns is trying to process this trade. It's a business. If he's anywhere aware of what's going on, he knew that with Minnesota and their financial future and their ownership questions had to do something, and he had to realize, Joe, it had to be him. Because you can't trade Gobert.
There's been hints of Karl Anthony Towns being traded, not because we heard noise, but because most of the people who pay attention to the NBA will always get a pulse on certain players, especially players who are talented like Karl Anthony Towns. The trade is very good for the Knicks. It allows them to now, with a couple of mishaps from either Boston or Philly, to actually make a run. And if for some reason the Oklahoma City Thunder, I don't know if Minnesota is going to be in that competition at this point. Julius Randle would have to be an all-star this coming up year for probably a chance at that. Maybe it opens up some things for Anthony Edwards. But it could finally bring some relevance to New York and the Knicks, which it's been too long for them, and it's time. And it's time to pounce now. Right now, they have a roster of really, really good players in OG and Brunson and Bridges. And now you have Karl Anthony Towns. You have good veterans like Josh Hart. You've got good role players like Mitchell Robinson. You're gonna make a run here now.
When he gets healthy, by the way, when he gets healthy on Robinson.
Every discussion always ends with if they stay healthy.
Well, no, for him it does, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a good move. I expected it last trade deadline. But that was because I was still in the mindset that the trade deadlines and free agency mattered in the NBA. Right now, Adam Silver, the new collective bargaining agreement, have made those two areas not as prevalent as it used to be.
Once again, it is Karl Anthony Towns headed to the Knicks again in a trade for Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, and a first-round draft pick. And that's the first thing I want to talk to you. There's several parts of it on Minnesota's end I want to talk to you about. First off, the fact that they had to get off the salary because he's in the first year of a $220 million deal. But with Anthony Edwards, the pricey contract of Rudy Gobert, who you're not going to be able to as easily get off of his contract, it was apparent that his availability was going to be among the most viable of all the Minnesota Timberwolves just because of who he was, what he can do, and also how much he's going to be costing an organization, again, that's kind of financially in flux. So with that, Joe, I want to ask your thoughts. First off, we're going to break down the trade as far as on the Minnesota end first. The fact that it was only one first-round pick. Yes, they did get some quality players. I will give them that, especially DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo on his contract, I think, after what we saw in the playoffs, Joe, I think is a really, really good value contract right now. What, a little bit, probably an $11 million range right now, I think is what he's going to get for this upcoming season. It's a really good value for a guy that can start or come off the bench and give you quality minutes either which way. Are you surprised that they broke up the Villanova party? But just, again, they still have three parts of it, but are you surprised that they broke up the Villanova party with DiVincenzo leaving? You're on mute.
I'm not surprised. I'm sure it was difficult for them to do that, but this business is about matching contracts and enhancing your talent, not having a reunion party every week. Looking at it from Minnesota's standpoint, when you look at Minnesota's team, they have Naz Reid, who's arguably the best non-starter in the NBA. Jaden McDaniels still has a lot of room to grow. You have Rudy Gobert, whom I don't know how he won the Defensive Player of the Year last year, but he's that guy, right? So
Yeah.
he's earned his money. But the thing with Rudy is he's got one more year after this year. It's a player option. I don't know if they're going to extend him, but they have a choice in not extending him and therefore allowing themselves a lot of flexibility to continue to build through Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, and possibly Naz Reid. They're going to likely roll with those three and then hope that they can get someone in the draft that could be a contributor, someone who could be a good fourth, third guy. Who knows? It's a good trade for both.
It's a top 13 pick, protected pick from Detroit. So most likely it will not convey next season.
I was surprised it was at 13, but this likely was a balance and money trade for Minnesota. We can't forget that we also have Julius Randle in there. DiVincenzo's there as well.
He pops into the starting power forward role.
Correct. I believe that this was a good trade for both teams based off where they are in their franchise. And Minnesota doesn't rebuild by trading him. They just maybe tweaked it enough to where maybe there's a better balance. And it's very hard to say what works money-wise in the NBA these days because there's certain restrictions that are assessed to every team. You have to have 90% of your cap covered. So when someone tells me, well, they're trying to save money, I'm like, how? How are they saving money? They have to spend it's part of the collective bargaining. They have to spend almost 90%. I think it's 85%.
Yeah.
As far as certain parameters there, but I just kind of rounded up anyways to 90. So no one is not paying a lot of money every year for players. It's just
the floor, like you said, is still 80 to 90% of the tax. Yeah,
correct. And a lot of people didn't understand why there were bad contracts signed in the past. I'll use Mozgov and Deng as an example. A lot of that was required. That doesn't get talked about enough. It was required at the time to have a certain salary cap number. That's part of the whole gig. They got a percentage that they have to give to the players. Minnesota made a good move. New York made a good move. I'd say this is as even as it gets. I'm sure Minnesota was trying to get that thing to 8, but you take what you can get. You get rid of a salary that was going to be there for a while. And Karl Anthony Towns does not really fit, in my opinion, with Anthony Edwards. He never really did. And that's it. I can't dog on Minnesota. They're trying. New York is trying. They are trying to win.
This is Tim Conley, my friend, a guy who could be available next summer as GM availability.
Oh, he'll be available, sure. Just not for the Lakers, though.
Well, if someone gets fired, that could happen.
Sure.
If it goes off the rails, it could happen.
I could be a monk too one day.
All right.
Could shave my head and move to Tibet and be a monk. All those things are possible, by the way. However, it makes things interesting in the East. I think the East is going to be a little more competitive. So the Northeast has got pretty much a stranglehold right now based off paper and the results of last year. It looks like Northeast basketball is back, folks. It's very likely, barring any major injury, of course, that it looks like the Knicks, the 76ers, and the Celtics are going to be the class of the East. That is good for basketball, and that is good for fans like us to watch. If everyone stays healthy, everyone is still hungry, it's going to be a lot of really good basketball, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
Once again, it is Lakers weekend at the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It is Gerald Glassford along with Joe Soro, aka Ox1947 at LakersBall.com, and his company Simblades with a Y.com, giving you the latest news that has Karl Anthony Towns, according to Shams Charania. Shams Charania now the only one breaking the news now. Watch out. Sorry, ESPN. He's the only one breaking the news. No more Woj as Karl Anthony Towns heads to the Knicks in exchange for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, a protected 2025 first-round pick via Detroit, which most likely, based off what Detroit's future may be next season, will probably not convey. So I don't know how it breaks down as far as beyond that, as far as for when they do be, or most likely would be able to collect that pick. We'll see. But yeah, that's the thing that surprised me most, that Karl Anthony Towns, despite the players, Joe, only yielded essentially one pick. Now, the Knicks did have to send someone away, back-end player on their roster. I'm going to get his name here in a second. I think it's Daquan Jeffries, and I guess second-round compensation over to Charlotte. Yes, that's correct. In order to get the deal done, to get some money off the books there. So I will say right now, though, Joe, what this does for Minnesota, it gives them a deeper team. I don't know, Joe, if it does, for the regular season, I think it gives them a team that's going to be right around where they were at last season. But I'm not sure if it's going to make them a better team in the playoffs.
No, probably not. But they weren't going to. It didn't look like they were going to work out even with Karl there. But
Mm-hmm.
we saw hints of it. We saw it. Anthony Edwards has an interesting season coming up. His mouth has done more business than his game. He's had it in spurts, but when you're talking that much, you're supposed to be winning. If he had just shut up and just played and not won, it'd be a different story. But he has a tendency to talk too much. Well, now he's officially the one. There is no 1A or 1. He's the one. He'll have a chance to be able to. He'll have another shooter, likely a possible starter with DiVincenzo. Randle, in my assessment of his game, is going to be best coming off the bench, because him and Gobert playing together would be murdering themselves at that point. Both clog the lanes, both can't shoot, really. You don't want that. But Randle could win 6 Man of the Year awards left and right if he plays team ball and is healthy. As a 6 man off the bench, he would be an asset for the Wolves. And that's it. What else can you do? Anthony Edwards would have to be an MVP candidate, maybe even a top 2 candidate to really make a difference there. And you still have Jaden McDaniels who can get better, and Naz Reid is a young player and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact, I think a lot of moving Karl Anthony Towns had to do with the fact that Naz Reid is very talented, and maybe he stepped up the game a little bit as well. And his salary is very friendly. He's going to make just a little under $14 million next year.
And that center, I guess, alignment, I mean, the depth that they had, I think may have been stunting his growth a little bit.
Sure. No, I think it was a great trade. Mike Conley has a couple more years left, doesn't take up a lot of space. Nice, good veteran player. They're probably better balanced right now.
And they don't have to be so reliant on the 2 rookies that they just drafted.
No, and it's going to allow everyone to have the correct hierarchy. Anthony Edwards is 1, and then I don't really consider Gobert a 2. He's a 1 on defense. Anthony's.
Would you slide Reid instead of Randle in the starting lineup?
Yes, I would rather not have Randle. I don't think you can have Randle because Reid can shoot. You don't want to have Randle in with Gobert. That would be a disaster. No one would be able to score at all. And Anthony Edwards would have to be shooting from 3 or from just under the line at that point. There'd be no room to maneuver.
I will tell you, though, that it is a very interesting trade. Again, It gives Minnesota much more depth. Again, the question is, what is going to be the commitment by the owners? Whoever the owners ultimately end up being in Minnesota. So I think obviously that had to play into it. But Tim Conley, yeah, despite the fact I thought he should have gotten maybe a little bit more draft compensation for Karl Anthony Towns, I think he did, whatever he could to go ahead and try and fill some needs as far as depth on his team while getting rid of a huge $220 million salary off the books and sending it to New York. And in New York's case, now they went from a very questionable outcome as far as their big man lineup to when Mitchell Robinson comes back, he doesn't have to go ahead and, from injury, he doesn't have to go ahead and overdo himself. He can come back. He can come back as the backup. They can play lineups with him if they really want to go super big with him and Karl Anthony Towns, because Karl Anthony Towns, is used to playing the power forward position. But Karl Anthony Towns is your starting center. That's a more natural fit for him. And it does alleviate a lot of the concerns for New York as far as having a big man. The only thing now is, what does that do to their depth and their rotation going forward, Joe? Because after Josh Hart and Miles McBride, it now gets a little bit interesting in New York.
Who has depth in the NBA anymore? Denver didn't. Boston didn't really.
What do you think about OKC?
OKC is different because they have a lot of young players right now that they've hit on. But sooner or later, they're going to have to pay those guys. Then, therefore, that depth's going to go away. Mm-hmm. It's all timing with that point. It's almost like the NFL when you get lucky drafting a really good quarterback. You're going to be able to pay that guy X amount of dollars for 2 or 3 years, and you can stockpile your defense, your offensive line, your receivers, your secondary until you have to drop $50-60 million on your franchise quarterback. Then things have to balance out after that. The NBA right now, you're seeing a slow balance in that there's not going to be a lot of depth, especially when you're paying guys $30 and $40 and $60 million for more than one. So if you're paying a couple guys 30, 40, 50, 60 million bucks, your depth is going to slowly start to dwindle. You're not going to be able to do the Celtics right now. I'm curious to see who's going to buy the Celtics. I really am. And even if somebody does buy the Celtics, my first instinct is going to be the people who buy it are going to start thinning out the roster a little bit with the money that's being spent. Because
they will be hundreds of millions.
Imagine buying a company that has a salary when you look at all the this with the video game world. What is the easiest way to make the stock go up so that the CEO makes his bonus? You lay off people.
Of course.
And that's what the new owners will be or will do in Boston. They will try to trade a lot of these big salaries, and they'll keep Brown, they'll keep Tatum, but you'll start seeing all the other guys start to kind of phase out, and they'll figure out another way to spread it out a little bit and try to make up some of their money. It's really going to come down to the extra money. They don't want to pay $100 million a year in tax. They don't want to pay $200 million a year in tax. That's going to get figured out. That's for sure. So the NBA in the next 5 years, based off the new collective bargaining agreement, there's not going to be any depth based off of players that are on the team, especially 2 out of the 5 that are getting paid super max or really, really max contracts.
Well, we'll see. Again, $220 million is now being shipped to New York in the form of Karl Anthony Towns. If he stays on the floor, because he has also had some health concerns, he can provide New York a lot of what they need to get done, because as the self-professed best shooting big man of all time, he could do some things, at least stretch the defense out as far as for the Knicks, and create some interesting things as far as for the guys like, as far as for Brunson and for everybody else, as far as the whole Villanova crew that's still left there, as far as creating openings with him having the ability to stretch it out. He is pretty good rebounder, so he can do that. The only thing as far as the defense is concerned, the defense still has to be reliant, Joe, on the wings because he is not a great shot blocker, which was his major deficiency. So the wings and the defense that they are supposed to provide has to be paramount for them in New York to go ahead and still have a pretty good defense and be able to hold some teams down.
Do you believe that the Celtics won due to amazing defense last year?
I think they had good enough defense, but they had a style where they were able to stretch out 5 players beyond the arc and have their backcourt defense with White and Holiday, I think was a big key to their success. The front court, not as much, but the backcourt.
It's very similar to the NFL. You can't really play defense anymore in either league. However, where you can win because of defense is when you make the plays. And it was always a perfectly timed defensive stop or steal, especially from Jrue Holiday, where they got that ball at the perfect time, perfect scenario, and were able to close the game out.
Well, also you got to remember also as well, as much as we want to go ahead and slight the forwards on Boston, they are very switchable. They are very, very switchable. And we saw in the finals that they were able to go ahead and, if they got switched on Luka or if they got switched on Kyrie, they could handle them as well. So that is something to note as well, that they have they're 4 guys, not counting whoever's at the 5 spot. Their 4 guys are very switchable and pretty good defensively still, especially White and Holiday. That are able to make the stops when you need them the most. But yeah, in this new modern offensive style of playing, Joe, I can understand what you mean there.
And it also factors in the Missoula philosophy, the Boston execution. They put Jrue in good positions. Jrue put himself in good positions. Sometimes when you have people around you doing their job, they start to make you look better. Yeah. You didn't see Jrue Holiday play this kind of defense in Milwaukee the last few years. It was lack of
during the title run.
Yeah. But the Milwaukee Bucks, in a lot of ways, I think left a couple titles on the table. They probably should have at least won 2 and likely should have won 3, but they didn't because there's some kind of lack of focus. Maybe the coach couldn't connect with certain players. I'm going to be watching Milwaukee next. Now that Minnesota finally pulled the trigger on Karl Anthony Towns, I'm going to be watching for Milwaukee to see what they're going to do. They have a lot of questions this year, and if they start out bad, there may be something there that we're going to be able to see. I don't know if it's going to involve the Lakers, but I'm going to be watching it. We were a little late on the Karl Anthony Towns thing, but true to form, we have the receipts. If you go watch some of the old shows, we talked about this guy getting traded. We knew he was going to get traded, and it happened.
Easy, Lonnie Walker does not have a guaranteed deal. I believe it's an Exhibit 10, so it's not a guaranteed deal. He still has to make the roster in training camp. But if you get the Lonnie Walker that at times looked good for the Lakers, then obviously it would be a good move for the Celtics. So we'll see what happens with Lonnie Walker. But I do say though, right now, the Knicks, I think a lot of people in New York land are very happy because they've got the center now position a little bit more clarified with the trade of Karl Anthony Towns to New York for Julius Randle and also Dante DiVincenzo and a protected Detroit 2025 first round pick. So we will see what happens and how that lays out. But it comes on the heels, Joe, of training camp for most of these teams. There's actually a couple that are already underway, including the Celtics. Any team that's actually going abroad to play exhibition games, they're already underway. But for others, they come next week, including the Lakers, Joe, right around the corner, my friend. And with that, are you hoping for any last-minute trades that will hopefully improve things for the Lakers, or are you like me thinking that there's no chance in hell, to quote the Vince McMahon song on the eve of Mr. McMahon series coming down, that will happen?
As much as I hate to quote that pig, I don't really. A game-changing or team-changing trade between now and then just doesn't fit the MO of the Lakers currently. The only way the Lakers make a trade is if there's a relationship with the team who has a player who would be able to help the Lakers and would be willing to take minimal amount of talent off the team, as well as take minimum amount of draft capital. Of course, somebody's going to take all their future picks and their why am I drawing a blank on this? Their switches.
Mm-hmm.
What
Their
are they
swaps.
called? Swaps. Jeez.
Yes. Because the Lakers still have swaps available.
Right. They can take their swaps. They can take future picks. They could maybe even get some talent and get Austin Reeves, right? Austin Reeves isn't the greatest player in the world, but he could help a team, right? He has talent, and his contract's very favorable. Or someone could use D'Angelo Russell's expiring contract as a reason to do something. Those all are factors. But it's what is it going to take? The only way that trade happens is if the Lakers feel 100% that they can make a run with that third player with Anthony Davis and LeBron. And that is possible. It just depends on who the third guy is. That's true. That's the way. That's how that would end.
So, do you see who's it? Darren, I think was asking. Oh, yeah, Darren was asking. Do you think any more blockbuster trades are looming?
I would say I'm really, really, really gonna be watching Milwaukee. I don't consider Jeremy Grant a blockbuster trade. I don't consider Zach LaVine a blockbuster trade. I don't know what New Orleans is going to do with Brandon Ingram. That could be
the Towns deal would have made more sense for them, or I mean, just as much sense for them as it does for the Knicks, Joe, because they have nothing right now unless you want to play Zion at the 5.
I think this trade made more sense than many of the trades in the past.
No, I'm saying it did, but I mean, New York has a bigger hole in the middle than even New York did.
Who has what?
New Orleans had a bigger hole in the middle as far as their center is concerned. I mean, they might have to start Daniel Tice.
I don't consider Karl Anthony Towns a center anyways.
You don't consider a 7 foot, 250-pound guy?
He's more of a power forward to me.
Okay. Well, that's where he's playing in New York, as center.
Yeah, a lot of guys that are supposed to be power forwards are playing center. And what has that done for Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota?
Well, he started out as center in the league, Joe.
Mm-hmm. And how'd that work out for 9 seasons?
Okay. But yeah.
Work with me.
I'm going to try.
I'm
going to try.
We're in the results business. Karl Anthony Towns has been out of position for 9 years, basically, right? Up until Gobert showed up. The only problem with having Gobert there is Gobert is softer than yogurt. So that didn't help when it mattered. But they keep giving him these awards as a dominant defender. He's going to go in the goddamn Hall of Fame being the softest freaking ice cream yogurt I've ever seen play defense. How does that make any sense? It's a microcosm of society. We honor and reward soft wussies because of statistics. So with Karl Anthony Towns, who should be playing power forward, which if Hartenstein had stayed in New York would have worked out perfect. But then again, I don't know if they make the trade if he's still there. Put him at center. Okay. The NBA is a positionless league. But what happens when you have to guard the Jokic's and Embiid's and those guys? Good luck.
Well, again, I just think it is a good trade for the Knicks, for Minnesota. I know it frees up a lot of money because they don't have to be committed to the entire 4 years, $220 million deal that is currently going to be on the table for Karl Anthony Towns that he has now over in New York. So money wise for a team that is somewhat financially cash strapped, especially the fact that they are having a ownership issue and a battle between the present owner and the Alex Rodriguez ownership that they're having a battle with each other on. I can understand why they made the move, and it was something that was speculated a lot for a long time in regards to Karl Anthony Towns. But for the Lakers, again, or any other team out there, it just, I believe, sets things in motions that we'll probably see maybe one or two more moves here in the coming weeks and days, maybe, just to see some tweaking, because it was a very, very quiet off season, Joe, and maybe this will allow things to heat a little bit up.
This trade will heat up the Lakers, possibly?
No, just the pure NBA in general. I don't think Rob Pelinka is going to be able to do much, but I'm hoping I'll be wrong.
I didn't feel a seismic change here, even in the last few hours that this happened. It was almost like you didn't feel anything. You felt more about Shohei hitting that 3-run homer today than you felt this trade. Just saying.
I knew you were going to say that. I saw your post.
I'm just saying. And the fact that the ESPN ticker is pushing almost every link to the WNBA while Real Sports is still around. I think that's another hilarious thing. It's like, dude, the Dodgers score against the Padres should have been on the top. There wasn't a lot of stuff going on yet. I'm watching some headline of some playoff game I didn't even know was on yesterday. It's like, dude, come on, guys, get with it a little bit. We're start talking about baseball, and you have possibly the best athlete on the planet right now doing things that I have never seen. And I've watched Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr., Albert Pujols. I've seen all of the greats the last 30 plus years. I've never seen a player like this. And has nothing to do with him being the Dodger either. This son of a gun is as locked in as I've ever seen any baseball player ever be. And I watched Tony Gwynn too, whom could hit.
What did he end up in his close to 400 year? Was it?
He was 394 in 1994 before the strike. And whether he was going to get 400 or not, and that year, Matt Williams also hit 44 home runs. That was before the steroid era. And at that point, people thought that Matt Williams was going to hit 61, 62 home runs. And he was, more often than not, the guys would kind of fade out once August hit. But Matt Williams had a good, he was looking good. And we lost that. We lost out on that. And then we lost out on possibly seeing a 400 hitter in our lifetime. Kind of sucks.
So let me ask you this. Again, ESPN is trying to pick up the pieces. They're trying to write their articles now. They're trying to cover the story as best they can, even though, again, they got beat and now beat soundly in the post-Woj era by Shams Charania. They recently laid off Zach Lowe, which I thought was a surprise. I wouldn't choose him first. I would have chosen Windhorst, but I would have laid him off first because I just don't think he's that great, but that's just my opinion. You may have others, and I will respect that. But then any one of the ESPN personalities, I'm sure everybody has one that they like and don't like. But anyways, or they feel that's useful, not useful. But coming off that in the post-Woj era, Joe, how is it going to be translated as far as the media? Because ESPN still wants to make itself the worldwide sports leader, the worldwide leader with the NBA contract that they have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they have all these reporters, Joe, and they're not able to get the scoops when they need them the most. I didn't say I hate Seven. I did say I hate Windhorst. I just said that he would be the first one I would probably lay off because I just don't think he's very good personally.
A lot of that is money. Maybe Windhorst doesn't make as much money as Zach Lowe.
I heard he makes 7 figures.
And the ESPN's relevance in this, by the way, ESPN is owned by ABC, which is owned by Disney. their relevance is NFL contracts, NBA. Are they still with the NBA, or did NBC take all of that in this last deal?
No, they're still.
Okay,
So
so
the NBA makes sure to spread out the love.
if ABC, again, when I say ABC, I guess I could say Disney. Disney owns all this. If Disney lost out on the NFL, if it lost on the NBA, then they probably have to worry about some things. But where are they going to go? To Fox Sports? I don't think they can handle what ESPN can handle. The beat writer thing is slowly fading away. I have a pretty good feeling the reason why Woj left is because the NBA, which is what his thing is, no longer has that element of excitement where he flourished. What is he going to do this summer? Let's say it's free agency, and there's a player like, I don't know, why am I drawing it? I can't even think of a name. It's been a long day. Let's say some mid-tier player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's use Al Horford. Al Horford's going to his last year. Let's say he decides he wants to play more. What's the excitement? Oh, Al Horford just signed a deal with the Charlotte Hornets. That's what the NBA free agency has basically been the last 2 years. And the trade deadline has been even worse. That's where those two things were Woj's like meccas. He owned those 2 weeks before the trade deadline, and he owned that month during free agency. So now I always love it when they say, oh, they're going to go back and hang out with their families. Oh, they're going to go back to their school and be the alma mater guy they all want him to be. Until when? What is he going to do at St. Bonnie? What is he going to do that's exciting over there?
He's just in retirement, basically.
Okay, but retirement for what? What was he doing? He wasn't laying bricks. He's sitting on his ass on a computer and a phone doing this. Like, what exactly was so taxing? What is he retiring from?
It's not. It's the. I'm assuming it's the travel involved and all the schmoozing. Yes. Again, I've seen Shams Charania in person. I got bumped by Shams Charania as he was glad handing it halftime of the Victor Wembanyama Scoot Henderson game a couple years ago. So I have seen him try to schmooze in person. It takes a lot of effort to be the Woj or the Shams because you feel like you have to get all the things right, but you have to know all the right people. You have to constantly stay in touch with all the right people. You have to be awake at all times of the day, seemingly, in order to make sure you're going to get that scoop first.
Okay. I guess the only scoops left were finding out that someone's getting signed for the max contract that we already knew he was going to get 5 seconds before everybody else finds out. Maybe that loses its luster after a while.
Maybe again, but ESPN lost it on this one because Shams Charania is now probably going to be the one breaking the great majority of the news. So we'll see how this shapes out and how much ESPN will like that fact, but it is going to be now what Shams Charania has broken in regards to Karl Anthony Towns heading to New York City, New York, as far as the part of a trade with him going to New York for a protected first-round draft pick for next year via Detroit, and also as well, of course, Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. So if you have your thoughts, please share it in the comments below. Go ahead and share it in of course, the best chat room that's out here, the Lakers Fast Break. But again, the Lakers are heading into training camp here, Joe. And I know that, we just recently had our critique of the JJ Redick, Rob press conference and about what's going on. And, one of the things you remarked, as I remember now, was one of the things, again, that he had to reiterate from the last press conference that he had is about the difficulty now in trying to construct a trade or ask for a trade, or when somebody calls you for a trade, is now that there's become a lot more difficult in his eyes. And I know you made comments in regards to that. So we just saw, I don't want to say a blockbuster trade, but a pretty good size trade involving contributors that will be able to be a great part of each of those teams. Yet Rob Pelinka, again, a guy who could have maybe done something to try and improve this team in the offseason, still sitting on his hands, Joe, wherever he's at in El Segundo or at his home, wherever it is, maybe on the beach somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to do much. He's not respected by the executives in the league. Doesn't have a lot of assets that are worth much, except for one guy, which they're not going to trade.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron has no trade value unless he was going to go to Golden State and go play with his buddies.
Mm-hmm.
He's inept in basketball operations, scouting. I think the Lakers had really good scouting and really good decision making, but all of a sudden now they don't. So what happened there? Jeannie is an absentee owner. She's more of a social media owner to me. She's more interested in telling everybody what she does during the day instead of focusing on the job. Now, if you want to do that, you want to be the flamboyant type and tell everybody what's going on or whatever, you got to come with the results. So if you don't have the results in the end, then you're going to look like a fool, right? That's what Phil Jackson used to tell. That's what he told Shaq when he first came to LA. He said, Shaq, look, I know you do rapping and I know you do this acting, but can you focus on basketball? If you just focus on basketball, you'll win an MVP. What happened? He won an MVP. And then he was subsequently screwed out of 2 more MVPs after that. And you can say he got screwed out of the 05 MVP. Sorry, I had to throw that in because I'm still in bewilderment how Shaquille O'Neal has 1 MVP. I watched this guy play. He was the most valuable player on the planet between 2000, 2001, 2002. And then Kobe was the MVP for at least 3 seasons after that. We're going to see, I believe, in the first few weeks, the personality of the team, at the very least. I'm thinking it might be different than what we've seen since LeBron has been here. Now, if it isn't, I just say I think because JJ Redick does have an out-of-the-box type mentality. The only question now is that out-of-box mentality going to be accepted? Sometimes it doesn't get accepted. You have to win a lot of times for it to be accepted. Ime Udoka, I don't know if you remember his first year with Boston, there was a little bit of mutiny going on around December. And then all of a sudden they had a team meeting and everything flipped.
They were around 500, if I remember correctly.
Everything flipped. Will that happen? Will the veterans on this team back him up, including LeBron James? And I don't put any stock in LeBron James and JJ Redick being buddies. I wouldn't trust LeBron James as far as I can throw him. The second, doesn't matter who it is, there's a rift that involves LeBron James not getting what LeBron James wants, he'll turn on JJ Redick like he never known him. And that's what you have to watch out for. And for those of you who think I'm nuts when I say that, 11 coaches in what will be 22 seasons. This isn't me being a hater. No great player should be playing for 11 coaches. I'm sorry, there are not 11 bad coaches. There are not 11 bad coaches when you're on a team with LeBron James. That's a LeBron problem. And his career He has had a coach every other year on the average. And the fact that could have been more had Pat Riley turned into a weasel like everyone else does around this guy. I should give Dan Gilbert some credit too. He didn't turn into a weasel with LeBron. He just kind of dealt with it more. But imagine if Pat Riley had indulged LeBron, God knows how many coaches would have been in Miami in those 4 seasons he was there. And that, folks, is where our Laker fans are at. There's no bigger Laker fans than us. We are Laker fans. We are entrenched. We are committed. We are about it. They've given us every reason to do it. 6 championships in the 21st century. They've given us a lot, enough to where if they never win another championship, we will probably be okay. But we have to see how the communication is with this roster and their new coach. I love you too, Abraham. Thank you.
Yes. Appreciate it, Abraham. So, yeah, here we are on the verge of training camp, Joe. And as the workout's already happening. LeBron is already roasting his son as he goes ahead, and already the stories are being told about that. But family picture day is around the corner, and then training camp after that. What's up?
Sorry, I'm reacting to Seven Grant's question about Otani.
Where was it? Oh, Joe, if Shohei said, fire Roberts to trade me, what would you do? I think that's an easy question to answer.
Shohei, beyond his playing, which is, I can't even, there's no how do you say it?
Superlatives.
I can't. College education, I still can't say certain words in English. It's English is a second language sneaking up on me every now and then. Superlatives. Did I say it right?
Superlatives. No. Superlatives.
There's not it's done.
He's not drunk yet, folks.
We've run out. There's no more. I'm watching the game today. I'm like, I don't know what to do anymore. I sent a message to Jeff. I just said, what's going on? What is this? Like, I couldn't figure it out. And he just put unconscious or whatever it was he said. Short answer, $7,000. Abso-effing-lutely.
Yeah.
You fire Roberts and everyone in his bloodline forever. But Shohei is, I tell you what, man, if this continues, I think Shohei should get, if the Dodgers win it all, and it's because Shohei is doing what he's doing right now, imagine that. Imagine a player so dominant that he eliminates one of the worst managers I've ever seen that's been stacked with talent like this. For years, it was Bobby Cox. But then again, Bobby Cox at least lost to probably one of the greatest dynasties ever, right?
Yeah.
The late 90s Yankees. They were up 2-0 in 1999. And then it was just one play that jacked everything up, right? At least they were there. So they may not fire Roberts because Otani is that good. And if that is the case, folks, that just adds more to his iconic legacy already.
One last team I think people should be interested in is Portland in regards to how healthy Robert Williams and then, of course, also as well DeAndre Ayton are and how they're doing, because you want to go ahead, Joe, and get Donovan Clingan in there. He's a top 10 draft pick, and you want to give him a lot of burn, but you've got Ayton and Williams there already taking up space. So I think that's if somebody's looking for a big man like New Orleans is or the Lakers, I would look to there first. I wouldn't look to Grant if I'm looking at Portland. I would be looking at one of those two players. I know Ayton has severely been an underachiever, but I know that Portland is trying to probably get off of his contract first and foremost. But Williams, with his knee issues in the past, if he's on the court defensively, he's one of the true difference makers in the league. But that's the problem, Joe, is if he's on the court. So we'll see what happens. But I would keep my eye on Portland on doing something here in the not too distant future.
Do you see them doing something with the Lakers?
No, something period.
Oh, okay.
Something period. Yeah, because again, we're talking about Rob Pelinka. So
I don't see Portland helping the Lakers, number one. Number two,
unless it's to get off that Grant contract.
If their delusion is to get first-round picks for Jeremy Grant's contract, you better include Simons in there.
And Williams, maybe.
Are you really? I mean, what are you sending if you do Grant, Simons, and Williams? You're talking about a total of what?
Yeah, that's still a lot of money.
Almost $65 million. Who are you going to trade?
That's a lot of cash. And they wouldn't. D'Lo, if they want to get off the cash, as far as whatever he's got, $18 million that's going to come off the books. That's not a whole lot. So I don't know.
Lakers don't have anywhere near the
they don't have enough
assets
to make the numbers.
And I don't believe you're going to trade three of your main guys for what? You'd have to get unlimited compensation for that. But I'm not giving you anything for Jeremy Grant. You need to give me draft picks. And we've discussed this a few times. If we're going to trade for Jeremy Grant, I'm not against it, but you better add some draft capital. This is the world we're in, right? We got to now start building through the draft. Well, you want us to take on that contract, and we're not going to likely win a championship? Get draft capital. You want to trade for Zach LaVine and hope he might be a good third guy? Sure, but you better drop 2 first-round picks for that. Then that becomes something that makes sense. But I don't think you're going to be able to get any of those guys or a combination of those guys without a third team likely anyways, to thin out the requirements. It's just too complicated. I don't see it happening unless the Lakers just completely bury their team. Maybe they do if they start out 10-20. We're going to wait and see. We're going to be here game in and game out to find out what this team is about. I want to know how a guy who's never coached a single NBA game as in any capacity, who hasn't run any NBA team in any capacity, whom insulted 2 eras of basketball, and all of a sudden he's supposed to get the ear of a bunch of pansy-ass whatever the name of this current generation is, plus the biggest bitch superstar that's ever lived in LeBron James.
Cool, bro. Just to let you know, yes, they do sell Kobe jerseys. He's actually still, to this day, one of the most popular jerseys that's out there. You say your faves are Reeves, D'Lo, and Connect. D'Lo, I would probably not get his jersey because he is a free agent next summer. He can re-sign with the Lakers, but the odds are probably not.
You know how you buy a sports jersey, folks?
Or Fanatics?
No.
Which
you know how to buy a jersey? I'll tell you how to buy a jersey.
Oh, here we go.
Put your own name on it. Don't wear another man's jersey. It's weird.
I have one. Right
behind. Yeah, I know you do, but you're weird like that. You don't want to be
with
weird.
My name. I have one with my name.
Be weird. Good for you. Then you don't have to worry about switching jerseys. Get an authentic jersey with your name on it.
I did.
I'm not talking to you. Talking to the crowd. Then you don't have to worry about D'Lo. You know how many people are going to get the number 1 jersey?
And don't worry, Fanatics and NBA.com, because Fanatics does take care of the jerseys for NBA.
Why do you always pump Fanatics? Like, who the hell knows? I'm talking about just getting the jersey. We don't need to
can you let me finish my statement?
Jesus.
We'll make
Every time I say anything about apparel, Fanatics. What are they paying you?
Because they dump their monopoly joke. They own.
So go make your own jersey. I got apparel people all over here.
I was just going to say you could go to NBA.com and
the hell with NBA and the hell with Fanatics. There's a lady named Sherry here who made these. These have been in existence for 4 years. I've washed these 400 times, and they still look brand new. Fanatics. Come on, get with it.
Unreal.
You could say worthy, because that could mean something else. And again, it's James Worthy. I mean, come on. Can't go wrong with big game James. Come on, man.
Gerald, tell Joe I said that. What if you look up to a player?
I don't care what Cool Bro says. I don't care. Tell Cool Bro to go drink some Kool-Aid and go to sleep, please. I'm a grown-ass man. I don't talk to children unless they're my children. Go away. Talk to Gerald. Don't talk to me. I don't talk to kitties. I don't relate to kitties except my own family. That's it. That's the world I'm in, and that's the world you got to deal with. I love my kids, and I don't want to deal with anybody else's kids.
And on that note, it is, of course, the Lakers fast break. Tomorrow, the Lakerholics do return. It's going to be 12 noon. I'll go ahead and set the schedule for it. It is going to be Lakers weekend with the Lakerholics crew. They'll be talking about training camp, what they're looking forward to. I don't know if I'm hosting it or Jamie is. I'll find out. I'm sure probably just before showtime. So somebody will be here with Laker Tom and Michael Heinrich at noon on Saturday. So yeah, there you go. Absolutely. It is the Lakers fast break. Joe, any last thoughts on Karl Anthony Towns heading to New York, Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo heading to Minnesota before we head on out?
I wonder if New York asked Tom Thibodeau if they should make that trade. I would like to see someone ask Tom that question during media day next week.
Because he did coach him in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. I didn't hear anything negative officially. So I don't know if there was ever a rift there, but definitely two different types of styles. Maybe it'll work this time. And Karl Anthony Towns, according to some reporters, said that he's processing, right?
Yes, according to Ramona Shelburne.
Ramona Shelburne says he's processing it. What is that code for? Holy crap, I'm going to New York now. I have to deal with that. Is that what that means? You can process it all you want. You signed a 4-year, $220 million deal. You don't want to get the $220 million? Don't go to New York. Simple as that. Thanks, sports baby. I appreciate that. When you stink in Minnesota, it's not as catastrophic when you stink in New York. So the pressure is going to be much tighter in New York, and Karl Anthony Towns is going to have to live up to his self-proclaimed best shooting big man.
Bright lights. We always talk about the bright lights in LA, bright lights in New York City at MSG.
Who don't you like, Darren?
I've been a Lakers fan since 71, 72. I've never disliked a player. I think he said Tatum. No, that Seven Grand said Tatum. He hates Tatum. I think we're just mad we didn't draft him. We're just mad we didn't draft him.
Jason Tatum's never done anything to be hated on. He's a good man.
And he's a Kobe fan.
Well, that's nice too. But the point is, Jason Tatum is all the abuse that guy gets, and the fact that he doesn't create any rift and still wins.
He didn't ask to be drafted by the Celtics. He did. Lakers could have drafted
Lakers
him.
had it. They had him right there. The Sixers could have had him. Guess what? Bad management. The process and the great players that are terrible executives reared its head because all they did was pay attention to what ESPN was saying.
J-Bay05 says the Lakers should have offered D'Lo, Rui, Shavino, or a first, and I'm assuming a first round pick for Towns. Let me ask you, what would actually get in return for D'Lo, Rui, Shavino, a first round pick? What could you actually get?
First of all, Minnesota might have gotten better in terms of roster balance in this trade.
Mm-hmm.
They have a shooter. They have a guy that could be a really good six-man. And they open up the floor for some of the young talent. There's a chance that Minnesota might have gotten a little bit better. We're going to find out. Especially if Anthony Edwards plays better, which it could happen if he just shuts up and plays.
Yeah, there's no way, J-Bay, anybody would use or be interested in JHS as a trade chip, just as salary filler until we see him make a positive contribution on the floor. And hopefully we'll see that starting in training camp next week. But yeah, I don't think any other team would be interested in JHS being a part of trade unless it's just for salary filler. So
I saw him shoot today. It was
not good.
It looked like a slightly better version of Lonzo Ball shooting the first year he was playing.
That was pretty bad. Ugh. But you know what? On the bright side, Ball, before his injuries, Joe, did work himself out to be a 40% three-point shooter.
That's nice.
I'm just telling you.
Dana Barrows made the All-Star team once too. What do you want me to do? Jump for joy?
Not really.
He was good for about 4 months. Great. Good for him.
I'm just saying if JHS maybe applies himself, you never know.
Applies himself to what? To do what? Can he make himself be faster? Can he make himself shoot better? Can he make himself guard elite perimeter players?
Or even average NBA players?
At least D'Angelo, whom he was supposed to cover or replace, at least D'Angelo has a quick release and can make shots. And he can go on a hot streak. That's what's kept him in the NBA. But everything else after that is no bueno. So what is he going to do if he doesn't have that and he has the same game defensively, ball handling skill-wise, speed-wise? Apparently, J.J. Redick thinks Dalton Connect has elite. Now elite. Everybody's elite now when they make a couple shots. I mean, seriously, guys.
Let's see it out on the floor and practice.
It's not. This is not supposed to be like this. You are not supposed to take a 17th pick who has defensive deficiencies, who can't handle the ball, and then put him in LA where there's pressure beyond pressure, and say this guy's an elite shooter without him even stepping on an NBA floor yet. That in a game that matters. It's such a stupid comment. And it's not one of those things where he's trying to build him confidence. That's stupid. It's a stupid comment because it's not true. Not because you're trying to bump up. Say it to him in private then. You're setting yourself up to fail. And then the second somebody challenges Mr. Redick, is he going to start cussing at him? I'm curious to see if that's the case. What's going to happen when one of his players starts to talk smack and they go on a 3-game losing streak? Is he going to start cussing after the game? Is he going to bounce out? Is he going to start every press conference with, don't ask me these questions? Well, what the hell are we going to ask you? It's basketball.
I do want to mention for the Lakers, they finally have a head trainer, Joe. So we could take some relief.
Can you tell me what the story with this lady is? Apparently there was some extracurricular activities involved with her.
In regards to what?
Did she pull a genie in the last job she was at?
I have to look it up. Dr. Vanessa Brooks, who comes over from.
They go through more trainers than J-Lo goes through husbands, right?
Yep. Well,
So
remember the head trainer for the Lakers, last month or not too very recently bolted to Phoenix.
yeah,
So,
job's easier in Phoenix because the
and
hot
then the
climate.
Lakers got criticized because I think they put it out there on like job boards that they were looking for a head trainer.
Job boards.
Yes.
Don't they
Indeed.
run don't they have VCR still in their video room?
Probably. I don't know. I'm not in El Segundo. So, yes, Dr. Vanessa Brooks will be the new head athletic trainer of the Los Angeles Lakers. Nice to make sure that they got that taken care of just before training camp. You don't think they could have already got that in place so that she could get everything in, motion already? They have to do everything last minute, but okay, whatever.
I'm still wondering why this is even news. This thing's so bad that we have to talk about a trainer that was hired.
Yeah, it is.
You know how many trainers there are in the world that you can hire?
Well, I'm just saying it because there's not really much to talk about when it comes to the Lakers, unfortunately. They've done nothing to really move the needle in a positive direction this summer.
Stay tuned, folks, because if everything comes to fruition on what we've been saying, the heat's going to be very hot. And if you think we were bad now, wait till then.
We will see, but it is the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate you joining us. Remember, again, like this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We need to get back to 1,800 subscribers. We did? Okay, because I was at $17.99 earlier. Let's see what we were at right now. We are at 1,800. All right, congratulations. Thank you so much. Again, we're at 1,800. Let's see if we can stay above the 1,800 mark. And you can only do that with your help. And if you do, go ahead, subscribe today to get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest LFB. And speaking of LFB, emojis, badges, call outs to our awesome membership community, and notifications, inside notifications first when we go on the air goes to you, plus little extra added treats like you guys that were members for just $2.99 a month got to see my review of Mr. McMahon 48 hours before anywhere else on the entire planet. So there you go. Little extra stuff like that for our members. It starts at $2.99 a month. Join today. The link is below.
Vince McMahon and his enablers.
There were plenty of enablers. That's just to say that. Yes.
You saw that video of him 30 plus years ago, what that former executive said to him on that show. That right there. And we all know who the VP was at that time. We all know who the VP was. Initials PP, which is what he was.
I will say, Jay Bay, I think it's good for both teams. I'm in agreement with Joe. I think it takes care of certain needs for both teams. I don't think there's a clear-cut winner unless Cat really goes wild in New York. But I think where Minnesota can really win the trade is if they do ever get a chance to convey that first-round pick, and that first-round pick is a good one for them. Then that's something to keep an eye on. But they probably won't do it next year since it's a top 13 protected via Detroit. But I'm not sure. They weren't clear on, how it will convey if that doesn't happen down the road. So we'll see what happens. But Seven Grant says if Tatum was on the Lakers, we'd win the title. Well, it takes more than just one player, $7 grand, but
Tatum, if he was with LeBron and AD,
that would make them. That would put them up there.
Be a hell of a lot easier to win. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you that. All right, and on that note, it is Lakers weekend tomorrow. Somebody will be back, whether it's Jamie or me, hosting the Lakerholics. Laker Tom and Michael Heinrich will be back. Darren, you asked for Laker Tom. You shall get Laker Tom tomorrow, 12 p.m. high noon Pacific time. We'll be back for more fun and hopefully some good talk about what to look forward to the coming days at Lakers training camp from all of us right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast.